So our application for today, our demo for today, right? We have everything defined in a single YAML file called as cluster deployment, which comprises of the cluster template and the service template, day zero, day zero, or the service definition. For this example of AI inferencing, we'll require all these services. GPU operator, obviously, to install the required NVIDIA drivers, cert-manager for certs, Istio for services, Knative and KServe for the inferencing. Right? This entire thing is defined in one single YAML file, which we'll see. So this is our kindness cluster deployment, which is a CR in Cordant. We name the cluster deployment, and then we define the infrastructure specific things. So this config that you see is the infrastructure specific stuff, which in this example, I'm using Azure. So you'll see that I've defined what the control plane should contain, what the worker node should contain, what VM size I should use. And if I come here, you'll notice that for the control plane, while I'm using the standard A4 V2, for the worker node, I'm using the Tesla T4 GPUs. And this is obviously the Azure specific credentials in order to connect with the cloud. Here's where we'll mention the cluster template. So like I said, everything is templated in Cordant. Here's your cluster template, which tells Cordant, hey, I want to use the standalone cluster template for Azure. And this is the version 100. And then these are the service templates. So the earlier slide that I showed you, all the components, here they are defined just in the YAML and the service spec of cluster deployment. We have the NVIDIA GPU operator, we have the Istio, we have the cert-manager, Knative, and KServe. Right? Now let me show you the cluster templates part, right? So this is a management cluster. So I'm using this management cluster, and I have Cordant installed over here, where I have all the CapEx controllers. Then I have the Cosmotron, which is the control plane in order to provision the clusters. And then I have the KCM, which is Cordant specific controllers. And then there's the service templates. This is where the power of extensibility comes in. I mean, all these are coming from Cordant's own catalog. So later on, I'll show you catalog.cordant.com, where all these applications are just available to your service templates. As long as any application has gotten Helm chart, you can build a service template for it, and it would be referencing that. And this would be referenced in our cluster deployment. So to get us going quickly, I provisioned another cluster just before this demo so that we don't have to wait for this. So I've already exported the kube config, and I'm going to use that kube config. Yep, we are in the right cluster. First, let me show you the namespaces. Now, because we mentioned all those services, Cordant automatically takes those services after it provisions the cluster, and everything is up and running. And then it creates the namespaces that are required and deploys the necessary components. So if we take a look, for example, at the NVIDIA namespace, right? And the GPU operator has done whatever it needs to do, due to which now we have our Kubernetes cluster discoverable. The GPU node, the GPU node discoverable for our Kubernetes cluster, right? And the other stuff is self-explanatory too. We have the KServe and then the Knative and so on, whatever we have specified. All right. Now, this is the context, right? To jump into the use case, what I have here is a real-time speech translation application. Let me see if I'm in the right directory. Let me swap over here. Perfect. I told you about KServe earlier, which basically serves the inferences. And I have defined a bunch of inference services in here, all these three. So the context is Kube Whisperer takes in the audio, converts it to text. Translation takes in that text and converts into the text into the destination language. And TTS takes in the text in the destination language and converts it back to audio. So let's say you give an audio file in English, and I choose the destination language as French, and it gives you French audio. But then internally, this is what is going on. So a couple of reasons why I did that. One, there's no very good open source model that does speech to speech translation really good. There are, but I'm just saying the quality of the service is not that great. Second, I want to showcase the power of of KServe itself, right? So connecting all these applications is one application called as Neural Babel, which is sort of a pipeline for this entire thing. Now we're finally ready to run the application, and I have a script created here in order to showcase the entire end-to-end pipeline. But before that, let me just open up another tab and go to the same cluster and watch the pods over here. So we have all these pods: Kubespro, LexiShift, and Voxraga, the three pods that are corresponding to the three inference services that we just created. And I've put this on watch, right? Now I'm going to run the script, and probably won't be able to hear the translated audio because I'm wearing headphones, but I'll walk you through it. So what it did, it got in these services. Yeah, it's doing the translation right now. It's passing through all that stages, and then it'll give me the output, right? And as you can see, in my inference service, I have mentioned that keep minimum pods as 1 and maximum pods as 2. And when the requests come in, the KServe takes this and automatically increases the number of pods for Kubespro, LexiShift, and finally Voxraga. There you go. So in production, we also have observed what people do is they keep the minimum pods to 0 because you don't want to waste GPU resources when you're not actually serving requests because it's a lot of money, right? So this is the reason, but for the sake of the demo, I've just kept it minimum to 1. But ideally, in production environment, you'd keep it to 0, and the moment the request hits, the application will parse that and then start serving up the pod and then start serving the actual request from the user, right? And if you give a couple of minutes, right, now that the request is passed, yeah, now that the script has successfully run and it sort of played the audio in my ear, it saves the output file to this. Once it's done, it'll slowly scale it down back to 0. So that just took like a couple of minutes. And now that there are no active requests coming in case of feels that a single pod with whatever resources we have defined can handle the load, it will start terminating the other pods as well, the additional pod that it spun up. So now you can see we just have these 3 running as individual pods, just one in number.